This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
I welcome you all to episode number 220 on the 12th of June 2020. It has been a wild 24 hours from me. Meetings, calls, plan Bs, making sure that I have a plan B ready if plan A is not going to happen. These 24 hours have been inventive for me, and I will explain how this entails as far as this episode is concerned. Not often does one find themselves celebrating 2 years and 225 episodes in the same week. But this special talk show, loved by one and all, will not only celebrate 2 years this June. 2 weeks from today, we will be celebrating 2 years of this great talk show, but also 12 days from now, we will also be celebrating 225 episodes. So, indeed, the next 14 days are going to be very special, and I hope my listeners join me in this as I recall all that has happened over a period of 2 years. So much has happened so far in these 2 years. Now, the question is, how do we go about assessing this? How do we celebrate a milestone of 2 years and 225 episodes? The more the things change, the more they remain the same. Skills and experience. Is there any difference between the two? Are these two words, which sound so big, related? This is what we are going to discuss tonight, and I will give many examples as how skills and experience often go hand in hand, and the latter supports the former at most points in time. In that context, let's take the example of sports, and going deep into the example of sports, let's take the example of cricket first. And in cricket, let's go into the realm of an individual who has become popular over the past 16 years. This individual may not be playing right now. He may have taken a break, which is often by unskilled and inexperienced individuals seen as a precursor to retirement. Let's look at this individual's span of 16 years and connect skills and experience with the same. We all know this individual is none other than MS Dhoni. Or let's take the example of any sports person in general. When a sports person debuts in the international arena, it could be in athletics, tennis, football, wrestling, archery, and so many other sports. They all arrive in the international arena because they have the skills. Because at the junior level, at the development stage, these individuals have proven themselves worthy of being at the international stage. Most of the time, they don't start with a big bang. They start with winning a few matches, losing a few, and then we question, were they drafted into the international arena early? Should they have got more experience at the junior and the development stage? And there is no straightforward answer for the same. The words, there is no substitute for experience, has been heard time and time again in the world of sports, and such phrases usually emanate from the commentators and the announcers. But isn't the very phrase, there is no substitute for experience, itself self contradictory when it comes to these announcers and commentators? the electronic and the print media and in the pseudo media, there is often a tirade against a new player who is drafted into a team, a fresh recruit. And when this new player does not perform up to the expectations of the millions of viewers watching in the stadiums, at home, and many pseudo experts waiting to pounce on this through pseudo media comments. These very individuals then target the team management who drafted the player in the team, and because the player did not have the experience and the time spent on the ground, the match does not go in the favor of that team. The term experience itself is contradictory. How does one gain an experience? Experience is doing the same thing again and again over a period of time till we become proficient in it. But how do you become proficient in a particular arena, be it sports, be it academics? It's doing the same thing again and again. But doesn't every individual start with a zero? If one's skill is about having the knowledge to do a certain activity, experience is all about when to carry out that activity and when not to carry out that activity. Let's take the example of a football team. There is a match between Team A and Team B. Team A is leading 3-0 to Team B, and the first impression is that the match for Team B is dead and buried because Team A has more experienced players while Team B consists of 70% of newbies. While Team B may go on to lose that match, but even scoring one goal will give a lot of confidence to the players of Team B. And when, after participating in more than 20 to 25 matches, the coach will make sure that if the same situation arrives, the players have enough experience not to panic and then play the game slowly, take the game deep into the 90th minute. The same players who were criticized for making a lot of mistakes in the first game will be given a lot of praise in the 25th if they manage to draw that particular game. Gaining experience means often being robotic and monotonous. When an activity is done without much of a thought, it means the individual has gained experience and they are not ruffled if the activity is not going in their favor. Experience is all about anticipating what will happen because an individual has seen that thing happen again and again, that they are not ruffled by the situation. Instead, when the event repeats itself, they are ready to respond, and that is what experience entails. But experience can work both ways. Well, experience gives us the knowledge and the notion to tackle an event and have the wherewithal to be ready for it. It can also make an individual rigid. Rigidity also becomes a part of this, and in this, what better example than to talk about MS Dhoni, who is often criticized for following the same formula of taking the match deep into the final over, and more often than not, it may not work in that situation. This phrase, been there, done that, has been heard time and time again, but as I said, experience can also work in both positive and negative ways. If, on one hand, experience is about anticipating something and being ready for it, on the other hand, the same anticipation can also lead to being rigid and not trying something new. Humans often presume that having salt and pepper hair is directly proportional to being experienced. Well, while this is true, it is not always the case. In sports, as a sports athlete gets more experience, they are given the respect, but in the same way as the athlete grows and he or she ages, it's also seen as a slowing of reflexes by the same athlete. The arena of sports is very harsh when it comes to the definition of skill and experience. A 20-year-old having the skill but not the experience, or a 36-year-old having the experience but not the reflexes to carry out the skills, which means for the younger athletes, they have the skills, they have the talent, they have done everything to come to the international stage, but do they have the experience? Do they have the wherewithal that if a match is not going in their favor, will the sports athlete be nervous, or will they wait and watch and take the game slow? Normally, when a sports person makes their debut at the highest levels, they generally lack the experience, but they have the skills. And do skills and experience work together? Yes, neither outweighs the other. Such examples can be found in other domains, be it sports, non sports, and other professional areas. But for now, let's take the example of sports because that is what satisfies the ego of most individuals. The likes of Roger Federer, Andy Murray, Rafael Nadal, Djokovic, whom we all revere as gods in the world of tennis, who have been a part of this arena, part of this sport for more than a decade. Someone like Roger Federer has been here for nearly 2 decades. But just like any new athlete who comes, we look at him with skepticism. Does he have the wherewithal, the experience, the guts to overcome nervous situations when the match is not in the favor of this sports athlete? Will they come and show their gut, show that what they are made of, show their metal that yes, even if the match is not going in my favor, I will not be nervous. When a sports athlete makes their debut, they have the skills, they have proven themselves at the junior levels, at the development stage, at the junior championships. But when they come to the senior championships, and when they make their debut in big tournaments, they normally do not start off with a bang. It's a 50-50 start. In some matches, they do very well. They just outperform everybody, and everybody sees them as this new kid on the block, as a new future, as a new legend in making. But, and there's a big but, if these same individuals who are pushed too early, or if we give them so much of reverence in their first or second match, if they lose their consequent matches, or if they lose by a thin margin, then we say, did we bring them up too early? Should they have spent more time in the development zone? And then there's a confusion. But 20 years later, the likes of Federer, Nadal, and the rest, we think that they are experienced. They will be able to handle any nervous situation. The fact that these individuals, along with Serena Williams, Venus Williams, and the rest, have been a part of this sport for nearly 2 decades and have seen everything that is possible to see in this particular sport. There is nothing more they can do. So we expect them to win. And even if they are in a losing position, they have the experience. They remember that I was here before. I know how to overcome this situation. Skills they already had. They've had it for the past 2 decades. Experience comes over a period of time. It, and so, as the word goes, you win some, you lose some. And therefore, in 2020, the likes of Roger Federer and his contemporaries, relatively younger contemporaries, are now seen as the greatest tennis players ever. Yes, there were a few players before these individuals, but those individuals have been retired for so long that we tend to forget them. But that is a discussion for another day. Let's look at the individuals who are there right now. Now, but the irony of the situation is that while we revere the likes of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray, and see them as great tennis players winning Grand Slams every single day, every single Open, be it the French Open, the Wimbledon, the US Open, or any other such marquee tennis championship, we once again fall in the same trap. Now, a bunch of young players are also coming up. They have the skills, but will always be looked at skeptically because they haven't gained the experience to become legends or win consecutive matches for their teams. But then the debate is, should we be patient towards new athletes because they will eventually get the experience, the knowledge of tackling a tough situation. But how long can we allow these individuals to prosper? Should they be sent back to the drawing board to gain more experience? And should we get back semi retired athletes into the team because those very athletes in that sport have done it all for decades? This debate is too carried out in the field of academics and the workplace. If an individual applies for a job in which that individual has only the experience in terms of getting the requisite qualification from university, but they have never worked in that professional environment, then they will be looked at with skepticism. But then the flip side is, unless these same individuals are given the opportunity to work or they start their own, that is, they do something on their own and they gain experience, how will you look at them with an eye of respect? It's a delicate balance which till today is not seen at an equivalent level. But now let's take a different route. Let me read you these two articles which were published in the Education Times and let's see how we can interpret the same. In the 21st and the 22nd century, the definition of skills is having the knowledge to work on a computer, or as it is said, the artificial intelligence skills. For example, I know how to edit using the software, but I won't be able to edit till I speak something or I shoot a video. So that artificial intelligence, that application will be rendered useless unless there is some content in it for it to be edited. And who does the post production or the editing? It's done by a human. This application only helps me do the work fast, but it doesn't do the work for me because the application doesn't know what I want in my audio or video or my text or what I don't want. It's the human mind which decides which paragraph is to be kept, which paragraph is to be removed, which audio file is to be left, what is to be added, what is to be removed. Only the human mind can accomplish that. But let's move on to this article and I will read the first paragraph and we will interpret this in detail. As the demand for leaders equipped with AI skill soars, Most Indian companies feel that the shortage of skilled professionals is slowing down their adoption of AI in business. This entire sentence is a double-edged sword. The first keyword is demand. The second keyword is leaders. The third keyword is equipped. And the fourth is AI skills, that is artificial intelligence skills, which means we have a very narrow definition of what a leader is and the fact that we are equating everything with demand and supply, be it the 19th century, the 20th century, the 21st century, and so on and so forth. The fatal flaw of the human mind is that they see everything in terms of demand and supply. Humans are not viewed as humans, but as carriers of skills. The fact that if they have the knowledge, they will be in demand, but the caveat is that they have to be near perfect, which means they should have the best communication skills, the written skills, as well as the ability to perform tasks on the computers. Let's take this article further and discuss. A recent survey of business leaders revealed that most of them lack the necessary AI skills required at the workplace. Which means if you do not know how to operate a certain software on the computer, you are basically useless. Why do we shortchange ourselves like this is something that I fail to understand. I can give you my own example. When I started this talk show for the first time, I wasn't experienced as far as handling this software is concerned. I had some training, but eventually, unless we carry out these tasks ourselves day after day, the experience doesn't come. The knowledge of when to edit, when not to edit, what to keep, what to add, and all such skills do not come unless we know. But 2 years hence, if you ask me, have I gained enough experience in handling audio editing software? Yes, I have, because I have done it again and again. Is this part of this AI skill required? Yes, if you're in the field of broadcasting, you should be aware of the skills required to handle this audio editing software. It's not as if you don't know, it's the end of the world, but the idea is that these softwares can be self-learned. One doesn't need to get so much of external training. You keep practicing it day in and day out, and as an individual you perfect it. But let me warn you, the audio software does not work by itself. Unless I know what to cut out from the piece of audio I am producing, the software will not do that for me. The software will only work if I take the mouse over that file and press delete. It's the same for the video software as well as the editing software found on word processing files such as Excel and Word. For example, in Excel, if you want to add, you will have to put in the numbers to add. The software will compute the numbers for you, but the software will not read your mind and imagine the numbers. As I said, human interaction is important. We may moon that business leaders lack the necessary artificial intelligence skills. You do not need the skill. The artificial intelligence by itself is dead as a dodo unless the human punches in the numbers or whatever software they use. There is nothing to be ashamed about it. In the 21st and the 22nd century, we are so overtaken by the definition of artificial intelligence that we fail to gauge the term artificial intelligence. We have to understand that the first word is A. A stands for artificial. It is, after all, artificial. It cannot empower human intelligence. So even if you don't know the skills, it doesn't mean the end of a human's growth. Let me give you a classic example. For example, an individual prepares a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, the presentation is great. It has all the animation, the slides, the photos are appealing, and all the data is there, the text is there, the diagrams have been put in. But who will eventually explain the slides? It will be a human. The PowerPoint will only assist in that. The PowerPoint will not start speaking on its own. Somebody is needed to interpret the data, and every human has a different definition of the word interpretation. Another fatal flaw of the 21st century citizen is that they get carried away by the term artificial intelligence without understanding the term artificial intelligence, and the dependency is so much that they forget that the human brain far exceeds any super quantum computer. Let's be clear on one thing. The term artificial intelligence is an oxymoron, means it is self-contradictory. How can something which is intelligent be artificial, or how can an artificial equipment be intelligent? One of the biggest defenses against using a piece of computer or something that is close to a computer software is that it computes data fast and it saves on time so that humans can work on more important skills. And once again, let's take the example of the software Excel, Microsoft Excel. It computes data, but as I said before, unless the human types in the requisite data, it will not work on its own. So the 21st century humans' defense of machines is weak. Let's take a hypothetical. Imagine tomorrow if robots replace all the anchors of news and TV shows. While the robot will read the script to the T, means no mistakes, reading each and every line from the teleprompter. The voice is steady, it is not blurring. The robot won't stutter, it will be so perfect that what is expected of this machine. But on the flip side, it will be so monotonous and so perfect that individuals may not want to hear the robot. There will be no addendum, no improvisations, no adding to the script at the last moment. Body language of the said robot will be hollow. Who will want to hear or listen to such an individual? So, before we go into this overdrive about artificial intelligence, let's not get carried away by this. Let's treat artificial intelligence what they are: artificial and semi intelligent. But human beings are excitable creatures. Can't blame them for getting carried away by something as ubiquitous as artificial intelligence. Strive for perfection, and a flawed nature has forced them to create this entity, this flawless entity which will not make any mistakes, and it will help in humans carrying out their activities fast. You've heard this idiom that data is the new oil, but for me, that is the most self contradictory statement ever. How are you comparing data to oil, or are you saying that the idea of data is replacing oil? That we are replacing something which can be felt, seen, quantified, qualified by something which is abstract. Data is abstract compared to oil, water, which is tangible and tactile. But that's the biggest difference between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Humans can be manipulated, but not so easily compared to a computer, in which if you feed a data on the Excel sheet, it may or may be wrong. It may not be the accurate data you are feeding, but if there is no other human to interpret it or say that the data fed is wrong, the computer doesn't have the wherewithal to even question you because it accepts what you feed it. And that is where artificial intelligence remains what it is. It lives by its term. It's artificial. It may be intelligent because it computes data fast. It helps humans solve big computing problems, huge algorithms, and also other mathematical and physical equations. But it's eventually artificial. Without humans, artificial intelligence is, as I said, dead as a doornail, dead as a dodo. Anything that is not human is artificial. Adding the term intelligence is to satisfy our ego that we can get help from a dead entity which cannot talk back to us. Even if we take the example of Alexa and Siri and whatnot, these softwares do not talk to us in the way other humans do. They are computers, they are robotic, they will not engage in discussions in which we engage with normal human beings. They have been fed with certain data. They will only answer that. If we ask them any other question which is not in their memory banks, they will say, I do not understand what you are asking. Isn't this an indication that what is artificial intelligence? Is it worth getting so worked up about individuals not knowing the skills or not having the knowledge of a certain software? For me, humans need to recalculate what they need. Why are they getting carried away by something as ubiquitous as artificial intelligence or big data, or saying that oil is the new data or data is the new oil, leveraging something that cannot be quantified, that is not tactile, not tangible, to something that is seen, touched, heard. But I leave this debate of artificial intelligence taking over petty activities and human intelligence working on things which are more difficult to compute to my listeners as to what they think. But as the premise of this episode was, skills and experience work hand in hand. Experience comes over a period of time. Experience can lead to rigidity. So, yes, when you are experienced, don't be rigid. If you are being rigid, then restart again. But it doesn't mean that in 1970, if somebody was able to calculate complex equations using a pen and a paper is useless, because we do the same equations, we calculate the same equations using Excel and such similar algorithms. Such a mindset has to be eradicated. Respect the algorithms which are used to compute data, but equally respect individuals who can compute complex data using a pen and a paper and their original human intelligence. This ends episode number 220 on the 12th of June 2020.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.